Yes, we are ready.
Okay, Salim ji, we can go ahead. Yeah.
So YouTube live is on, sir, now.
Yes, I
Yeah.
checked it up. Yeah.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, thank you very much for joining this live webinar on innovation and product development with green energy, which is organized by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's International Foundation or House of Kalam, Rameshwaram. At this moment, I invite Sri APJ MJ Sheikh Salim to propose the welcome address. Salim ji, over to you.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Hello and welcome to everyone to the webinar for innovation and product development with green energy. I am APJ Sheikh Salim, Managing Trustee at APJ Abdul Kalam International Foundation. In this regard, I would like to welcome Professor Ashok Junjunwala sir, Department of Electrical Engineering and IIT Madras, and Mahesh Babu, Managing Director and CEO, Mahendra Electromobility Limited, Bangalore, and Sri Professor Anil Gupta, PhD Management, MSc Genetics, BSc Honors, and Honeybee Network, and BC Data, Corporate Affairs and Vice President, Hyundai Motors India Limited. My elder brother, APJ Sheikh Salim, is going to give the opening remarks. He is a grandnephew of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam and also Managing Trustee. And this panel moderator, Mr. Sasikumar Kandam, Managing Director, Salcom India Managing Limited. In this panel discussion, myself, Dr. Gogul, ISRO scientist, Dr. L. Ramesh, Dean, Dr. MJR Education Research Institute, Chairman, Greenland, Dr. J. Balamurgan, AEE Electrical, Chennai. And some of the people are joining to watch our webinar conference. So there also I am welcoming all. And I will go to my brothers, they said for opening remarks.
Thank you.
So this is like we've been doing Kalam's Vision 2020 seminars. So we are thinking energy independence is one of the part. How Dr. Kalam envisioned with other scientists and Indian government how India should be in India 2020. That was a vision document is given. So he talked about agriculture and food processing aimed at doubling the present production of agriculture and food processing. That's one. Number two, infrastructure with reliable electric power, providing urban amenities in rural areas and increasing solar power, high-tech science and technology operation. Number three, education and healthcare directed towards literacy, social security, and overall health for population. Number four, information and communication technology for increased e-governance to promote education in remote areas, telecommunication, and telemedicine. Number five, critical technologies and strategic industries, the growth of nuclear technology, space technology, and defense technology. So these are the 5 areas he insisted we should develop it. So one among the 5 areas is infrastructure is reliable and quality electric power, including solar farming for all part of the country, providing urban amenities in rural areas and interlinking of rivers in particular, takes deep interest in strengthening renewable energy sources. So I'm going to take out a couple of studies in the books, what is published in Dr. Kalam's book. So in his book, India 2020, a vision for the nation, was refined of the TIFOX series Technology Vision 2020 documents. He said, drawn to the interactions of the policymaker, legislature, country planners, brokers, and other aspiring youth, all his book, Dr. Kalam advocated renewable energy sources for achieving energy security in the country, expanding electrification at the grassroots level, and reducing over dependence on fossil fuels. In his book, Governance for the Growth in India, 2014 was published, Dr. Kalam envisioned a new India empathizing on sustainable energy sources and said, power generation through renewable energy has to be increased from 5% to 28%. Dependence on fossil fuels as a primary energy source needs to be brought to 50% from the present 75%. Another book, Scientific Indian, he described various potential renewable energy sources achievable in India, including solar power, wind power, biofuels, municipal waste, geothermal power, ocean tidal power, small and mini hydel power, nuclear and hydrogen power. He also prescribed an action plan for power system to loss reduction. This action plan, when implemented, will help in improving energy efficiency, transmitting and distributing the power with minimum loss, and close monitoring of the losses. He also further suggested in the book Energy Independence Vision 2020. He was talking about Energy Independence Vision 2020. He summarized and narrated that a major objective of the vision, Energy Independence Vision 2030, would be to bring down our dependence on non-renewable sources of energy and increase the use of renewable ones. Apart from the extensive use of solar power, this mission would involve the expansion of wind energy farms, micro hydraulic power units should be also set up along streams and small rivers. There should be a trust on using municipal waste to generate electricity. All thermal power stations should substitute 20% of thermal, 20% of their annual electricity output with electricity from renewable energy system. Lastly, all steel plants and heavy industries should be mandated to use their waste heat and generate electricity to meet their own needs. He further laid emphasis on power from municipal waste for electricity generation as well as for elective solid waste management in cities and towns. Okay. In year 2013, Dr. Kalam actually went to USA. I was there when he delivered this lecture. Something called Mark Hopkins on National Space Society in USA agreed to start an international source feasibility study in 2013 under the framework of Kalam NSS Space-Based Solar Power Initiative in the year 2013. Dr. Kalam described the concept of solar power in his book, The Manifesto for Change. He said, at the time when the world is witnessing rapid depletion of fossil fuels, it is essential to explore the possibility of harvesting solar energy from space. This is a unimaginable scenario. Currently, still world is thinking about this concept, how you can harvest the solar energy in the space and bring down the electricity to the earth. This is a very, very hot topic, and in US and other countries, this is going on. I definitely foresee the emergence in technological coherence soon in the space solar power mission, which will benefit to the nation and the world in a big way. So with that, I would like to give this remark. So we are actually more moving towards more renewable energy. So I would like our speakers to talk about how India can take up this concept and implement in a practical way. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, sir.
Am I supposed to go on now or?
Yeah, 1 second, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Sheikh Ji. Thank you for the introductory remarks and also setting the tone of the expectations and the outline by Dr. Kalam. So first and foremost, at the outset, I would like to congratulate both Mr. Sheikh Dawood and also Mr. Sheikh Salim for their noble thought and actions by organizing such a webinar towards fulfilling the vision of our people's president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Dr. Kalam dreamt of a very vibrant and self-reliant India, and today automotive, telecom, energy, pharmaceutical, and few other sectors to name play a very significant role in transforming our nation, not only for its domestic needs, but also puts us on the track to serve the rest of the world. We are very fortunate to have 4 eminent personnel comprising of industry and academia, which is normally a very rare combination to put them together in one webinar. And so where, they help in fulfilling the concept to reality. So thank you, Professor Ashok Junjunwala, Professor Anil Gupta, Mr. Mahesh Babu, and also Mr. BC Datta for being with us today. And my name is Shashi Kumar, and I shall be the host for the day. I run an organization named Salcom, which is one of the top companies in the area of mobile phone accessories and components. We do have a significant presence in India and overseas. I have been associated with Dr. Kalam's foundation for quite some time now, to be a very small part in implementing the vision of our great scientist, Dr. Kalam. I consider this as a very personal privilege to be in the midst of you today. Thank you again for joining us. And to all our audience who are watching this session live, a very warm welcome. And as much as you are eager to hear from our speakers, I am very eager too. The theme title, Innovation and Product Development with Green Energy, is so apt for the era that we live in today. While the pandemic has brought the whole world to its knees, the result of this, we all understand the importance of preserving our nature. Innovation is the key, not only for companies, but also for countries. So the countries do not innovate, do not flourish. So Israel is one such example, when we talk about innovation, given the limited resources that they have, and Japan is another country too. Product development with a focus on green energy shall help the planet to sustain. So let's hear from our eminent speakers on their thoughts, ideas, and insights that they have to offer us during this webinar, focused on innovation and product development with green energy as the key focus. This is a 2 hours webinar, and we shall have 30 minutes Q&A session as well at the end of this webinar. And now, as our first eminent speaker, I would like to introduce Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala. So Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala is a professor at IIT Madras. And
Yeah, I think we can introduce ourselves. No point in
great,
it in a webinar.
Thank
it
you.
takes a long time and doesn't do the ball right. So I will start and try to end in time. In fact, sooner than that. I'm going to give a relatively short talk, basically titled, How Far Can We Go with Green Energy in India? And I will, of course, talk about electricity. That will be my primary talk. I'll not talk much about cooking, but we know that electricity can be used for cooking. We need to move towards that. And then for transport. On cooking, I could give another talk at some other point of time, but today I will talk primarily about electricity and transport. Now, I think most people know that today's solar-based electricity, to produce electricity and supply, it costs about ₹2.50 per unit of electricity per kilowatt hour. This has been the going rate for last several years. It keeps on fluctuating a bit, but more or less this is the rate. Similarly, wind-based electricity is ₹2.50 per kilowatt hour. Incidentally, coal-based power plant also cost, the electricity from coal-based is roughly the same. Of course, depending on whether it's old plant or new plant, cost can go up and down, but that is the order of magnitude. On the other hand, oil and gas-based plants cost much higher, 16 rupees or 12 rupees per unit. So the question that is there, that we know that solar and wind are renewables and it can really, it has zero pollution. So what stops us from going 100% renewable, solar and wind? We have enough solar and wind. In fact, if you look at solar around the country, I mean, we have even a very small area part of Rajasthan can create enough solar for the whole country. And we have plenty of wind, coastal wind, ocean. It can also be there in the ocean. So we have plenty of solar and wind. And it costs approximately ₹2.50 per unit. The problem is solar and wind is not available 24/7, whereas coal is. So output cannot be controlled by human beings like the coal-based electricity. So what is the thing that we need to do and what has been done over the years? The first thing I think many of you will know, and if you don't know, please learn this, that electricity, once it is produced, it has to be used immediately. If it is not used, it's gone. So the question is, there is a huge number of plants which are generating, there is a generation going on, and demand, lots of people are using, I'm using it for this laptop and all kinds of things. Question is, how does every instant generation it becomes equal to the demand? If power produced is less than the demand, well, that used to be the scenario in India till a few years back, and we used to have power cuts and load shedding. In select areas, the power will be cut off. If demand is less than the power produced, which is currently today so, then you have to reduce power production, so that demand matches the load, the generation. But it is possible to do it instantaneously in oil and gas plant. With some delay, it can be done in coal plant. I mean, with hour and a half, even less, 45 minutes delay, it can be done. But for solar and wind, that is not in our hands. It cannot be increased or decreased. And of course, in that way, the excess power can be dumped. Over the last 10 years, there has been a lot of work of alternatively used demand management. The whole concept of smart grids came from demand management. The demand management basically said increase, decrease, or postpone use of power to match generation. So you can increase demand by actually suddenly turn on your washing machine. If everyone turns on, it increases demand. Decreases demand, well, right now there is a shortage, let everyone start using it less. Or postpone, saying that instead of using it now, I'll use it 4 hours later on. Now, how is that to be implemented? Because all of us are users, millions, hundreds of millions of users. How do you really manage this? By actually giving us incentive, saying that if there is a shortage, I will increase the tariff. And the signal will come to you, you better reduce it, otherwise your cost will go up like anything. And when there is a excess, the tariff will go down, and use that to try to increase the power consumption. Now, of course, this can be done quite easily at a corporate level, in factories, a little more difficult at homes, but even in homes, a lot of things can be done. So this work has gone on and has gone somewhere. Of course, one more alternative, which was not possible earlier, so therefore was not considered, but in recent times have become possible, is you store the electricity. Now, how do you store the electricity? Now, electricity can be stored when you convert it to something else, some other form of energy. Now, and then store it. So, when you take the electricity, there is excess electricity, you convert it in some other form, store it, there is some losses. You convert it back, there are again losses. For example, in a hydel power plant, you pump the water up from below. When water is pumped up, you consume electricity, and the water is now gone up. When you want to use the electricity, let the water fall. Now, of course, this has 30 to 35% losses. There has been a lot of work on this mechanical flywheels, which will store the energy. Just very heavy ones will just start rotating. The question is, how long can we store? If once you have stored it, is it not going to naturally die down? That is a concern. Conversion to hydrogen. You convert it to hydrogen and then convert hydrogen back to electricity. There are lots of experiments going on. The simplest one all of us know is use electrical, or what I call chemical batteries. Store it in lead acid battery, store it in lithium ion battery. There are many other kind of batteries, solid state batteries and other batteries. So today, in fact, it is the battery storage, that chemical storage in some manner, or electrical storage, whatever you want to call it, is becoming very, very common and popular. Most of our homes have inverters, which actually store energy when it is available. And if there is a power cuts, it gives you the power. Now, when you use this storage of any kind, you have to worry about what is the storage cost. Kilowatt hour is 1 unit of electricity. If I want to store 1,000 units, how much will I have to invest? The capital cost. And the capital cost, you have to then worry about what is the depreciation and interest rate. How long will that capital, that storage will last? How many years will it last? How many times I'll be able to? And what is the interest rate that I have to pay for the capital? So depreciation. How many times it can be used? How many cycles it can be used? Can it be used indefinitely, or after 10,000 cycles or 2,000 cycles, you need to change that? So that your depreciation will depend on that. is there any cost per usage cycle? Are there operation costs? When I store it and give it back, what is there an operation cost? Now, suppose you store it in a battery or any other form. How long will it stay? Or will it self-leak? Will there be decay? There's leakage. Now, all these together actually contribute to the total cost. So you then talk about effective cost per kilowatt hour of usage. What is the effective cost per kilowatt hour of usage? And here in this effective cost will include capital cost, depreciation, interest rate, number of cycle, operation cost, and decay or leakage. But it doesn't necessarily take into account environmental impact, toxicity, hazards, recyclability. So frankly speaking, you need to take that also into account. Now, what is today possible? Renewable energy in India costs about ₹2.50. With storage added to use when renewable is not available, total cost hour will add some amount. What is that amount? That extra amount that will be added instead of ₹2.50, if I also add storage, how much will it become? Will it be ₹3 extra? What will it be? Again, I'm pointing out it's the same factor. It depends on the cost of storage. It depends on the depreciation, interest rate, number of cycles. How many times will it be charged, discharged per day? Depends on how much, what is the kind of mix of renewable energy that I used. And as I pointed out, how many times will I use it per day? Now, we took some lithium ion batteries, which are available today. These are today's batteries. They are not tomorrow's future batteries. And some of the better batteries, we selected it and we try to compute what is the cost of per kilowatt hour of storage. We took all the factors that I talked about into account. And suppose once a day you charge, discharge, and you took the lifetime of that, depreciation and interest rate. See what the cost comes out. If I use one cycle per day, if I use only interest, it depends heavily on interest rate. See this is 2% interest rate, this is 10% interest rate. In Europe and other places, you use 2% interest rate. The cost is only ₹3, ₹4, ₹3.50. But in India, it is more than 10%. So the cost becomes ₹6 and ₹7, or even ₹8 or ₹9. Suppose you are able to use 2 cycles per day. If with 2% interest, it goes down to ₹2.50. But with 10%, it's still high, not as high, but around ₹4.50, ₹5, ₹5.50. How much does all this add to? What I have done here, let us assume that we are getting energy from renewables. That is costing us ₹2.50. Let's assume 70% we use immediately and 30% is stored and used later on. The 30% used and stored and used later on per kilowatt hour will cost between ₹1.20 to ₹2 per unit, which means ₹2.50 totally will become ₹3.70 to ₹4.45. Now, most of you know that today, for example, industry pays ₹8, ₹9. Even at home, it is ₹6, ₹7. So this is not bad. Even storage, also it will cost only ₹3.70 to ₹4.40 or something like that. And I can then therefore generate all the energy through renewables and build large storage and ensure that I get 24/7 only renewable energy. This is possible at today's cost. I've computed the cost based on today's technology. Now, of course, I have assumed that only 30% of energy is used through the storage, 70% is directly used. One will say, no, what happens if the weather is bad and all that? And only 50% of the energy you are able to use directly and 50% the storage. Of course, cost will go up. But if you are trying to build a nationwide grid and nationwide storage, it is not going to happen in one day. It will take 5 years. And in 5 years, the cost of batteries will fall down by 50%. That's what is happening. Because it will fall down, my cost will go down. So I am pointing out that at around ₹4 per unit, we can get as much electricity as you want through renewable sources. That is what is possible today. And as I pointed out, there were talk about rains and weather. I mean, Rajasthan has very little rain. And you can put enough solar there, you can put enough wind, and it is theoretically, I won't say theoretically, it is economically possible to convert everything into renewable energy today. This is the first part of the talk that I want to give. The second part of the talk is, that was electricity. We of course can use that electricity for cooking. It is being increasingly used, and there are now stuffs available which are extremely efficient, which can make this possible. We can have a distributed energy, solar energy, and use it. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk the later part, which of course Mahesh Babu will elaborate. So electric vehicles. Now, one of the byproduct of this corona crisis has been, if you walk out today, the weather that you see, you have never seen weather like this, at least in last 20 years. Because our vehicles today gives huge pollution. And we are the pollution capital. We have the 14 of the 20 most polluted cities in the world. And we are importing all oil, and that is also destroying our economy. Now, I want to point out, which today is well known, few years back was not as well known, the electric vehicle is 4 times more energy efficient than an internal combustion engine vehicle. And it has 50 times less moving parts. So it is not going to wear out also. So that's what I'm pointing out, that it has a motor efficiency of excess of 90%, whereas internal combustion engines have 22, 23, 25%. So what is the reason why we can't do it? Now, the key thing is batteries, the energy storage, because that is what is going to be store the electricity, store it in the battery, put it in the vehicle, and then use it. If I look at the energy density of lithium-ion battery, which is by far the best and least cost battery today, it is about 250 to 300 watt-hour per kg. If I look at petrol, it is 9,000 watt-hour per kg. So I take 1 kg of petrol, I have 9 kilowatt-hour. I have only 300 watt-hour, 0.3 kilowatt-hour in the using the battery. Even if I take 4 times energy efficient, basically the petrol is still about 7 to 8, 9 times lighter. And that is the reason petrol has been used so much. So what do you do? And the point is, the cost of the battery is inversely related to its energy density. If energy density increases, then cost falls. Fortunately, energy density is continuously increasing. If you see, the energy density was 80 watt-hour per kg in 2011. It is close to 300 watt-hour per kg. And the cost has gone down from 800 to 100. This is going to further increase, and cost is going to further come down. It is that which will make EV battery weight to be not comparable to petrol, but I'll say get better. And then we have to use slightly larger size battery to go about doing things. Now, the point is, India's auto segment is different from the rest of the world. We don't have mostly large cars that most of the other countries have. We have two-wheelers. Our 79% of our vehicles are two-wheelers. We have three-wheelers. We have small cars, 10 lakh, 5 lakh rupees car, 6 lakh rupees car, 4 lakh rupees car. And then we have, of course, buses. These are 98% of our vehicles are affordable. Very different from that in the West. Can we get all these things to become electrical? I'm sort of saying today you are starting to see them becoming competitive. And by 2030, enough technology development is taking place. Earlier than that, but 2030, I will say all the vehicles in India, affordable vehicles in India, will become electric. And they will meet the requirement that costs will be comparable and that they will be attractive and people will start using it. And you will see acceleration of it from this point onwards, and Mahesh Babu can talk more about it. The one issue will come, what about batteries? Our batteries uses these materials which are imported today, and are we going to create waste out of this material? Now, I want to also point out that today it is possible to recycle batteries, lithium-ion batteries, with zero solid gaseous effluent. And the cost, it is highly cost-effective. So there is no, of course, there is a lot, quite a bit of manual work involved in that, but there is no reason why India cannot become the capital of the world to do urban mining, of actually taking old batteries and getting the material out and creating new batteries. So this is what is possible. So as far as I'm concerned, I want to point out the electricity can be 100% renewable, and the vehicle can be 100% electric or near 100%. Cooking can very quickly move towards that. That is what is possible. It is going to happen. It requires a little more will. It requires a huge amount of technology development. None of these things is trivial. And I think India has the capability to do this technology development. I think with this, I will end. And I think I have not taken more time than was required. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. I think you gave a very good overview. And if I can just summarize in a minute, what was very, very prominent is that, which you really mentioned about is managing the usage, the flexible tariff. I think that's a very key point. And storage costs and then, operational costs as such. But then getting this to be all mostly affordable. I think that's what you really focused on. And thank you for that. And also, especially giving hopes that EV is going to be the future, and basically by 2030, most of all our affordable vehicles will become, EV will become the norm. And more so, as you rightly mentioned, the batteries, are the ones that are going to define. And we import almost everything to make batteries here. But then this also provides a great opportunity for India as a country, and for innovation, and also for many entrepreneurs for them to be able to venture into this area. Thanks again, Professor, and we'll summarize again end of the session, and thanks for your time. So we now move on to the next speaker, who is Mr. Mahesh Babu, the Managing Director and CEO of Mahindra Electric Mobility Limited. So he's been the CEO of the company, and then, which is a $17.8 billion global federation companies with the Mahindra brand. Under his leadership, Mahindra has launched many new models in the past years, including, yes, sir. So,
Sasi, I think introduction name is sufficient. I think we'll go ahead as Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your introduction.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon and good evening, participants. I'm very privileged to be there in the platform of Dr. Abdul Kalam, because I still remember he came and inaugurated our innovation center, Mahindra Research Valley in Chennai. And he has always been talking about renewable energy and how that can play a vital role in mobility. So I'm happy to be there and just want to give a perspective. I think Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala has talked about mobility already, but I will start with the industry. Look at auto industry today in India. While we are in the top 3 or 4 in manufacturing of auto industry, we have always been looking at innovation either in the East or the West. Look at 100 years of automobile development. We either bring technologies from Europe or from Japan or Eastern countries, and then we try to meet it 5 or 10 years down the line, whether it is emission norms or any new technologies. We have been always depending on technology to the East or West. Now, you have been seeing that automobile is being disrupted globally. It is I would say, the automobile industry and the mobility as a whole is getting disrupted substantially, particularly on electric vehicles, automation, connected, autonomous driving, and many more things like that. So why it is happening? I think why it is happening is we have been doing incremental change for the last century, and now we are looking at the next S-curve, which will take us to the next mobility paradigm. So if you look at that, electric vehicles are going to play a vital role due to the simple and following reason, and what India can play a vital role in it. It's very important. Electric vehicles are basically efficient, more efficient, 4 to 5 times efficient, as Professor has said. It gives a tremendous potential because India as a country has a scarcity of anything, whether it is space or energy or anything. It is important that energy efficiency is brought in everything, including mobility, and EVs will play a vital role. Now, looking at the industry, I think Indian auto industry has a one-time chance to invent ourselves again, because EVs are a combination of an embedded system, software, electric motor, and not very highly dependent on internal combustion engine technologies, after treatment devices, which India is good at. we are capable as a country to develop efficient motors by ourselves, and we don't need very high skilled history of technology in it. And look at India. India has a very high IT capital, and we can do embedded system and software better than anybody else in the world. So if we can manufacture automobile efficiently, and we know other technologies, and if we know IT, and if we know how to build motors, then we need to look at how to build batteries and storage. If we do that, I think we have a very high chance we can put India in a global supply chain and also ahead or equally in the same platform like any other country on automobile technology. So since we are talking about innovation, this opens up a lot of startups, new entrants, even a big players to invest on new innovative technologies in EVs. Because no other country has gone ahead far in electric mobility, and the race is yet to start. So it is, I would say, start of a start. And it's important that we need to think about how do we play a very important role of innovation, not just on products. The electric system is not about selling electric vehicles. It is important we create a new ecosystem. We have been used to going and filling fuel in a petrol pump for 100 years. Now, if suddenly we say, no, you have to charge your vehicle at home, you find it very difficult. But the reality is the combustible diesel and gasoline needs to stay away from your living. Electricity is right available in your home. So it's as simple as charging at home. If you globally look at it, almost 90% of the vehicles are charged at home, and 70% of them are at home charging and slow charging at either at office or at home. So it's very simple, but there is a mindset needed to be changed at the customers, and for that industry needs to work on. So as Professor said, India has a very different challenge. Do we want to make supercars like what Tesla has done, and will it need meet the country's requirement? I think we as Mahindra and also as an industry leader, I would say any technology has to address a societal problem, and it has to improve the life of the people living in the society. Now let's look at electric vehicle. We have talked about 14 out of 20 cities are being highly polluted in India. And with Corona, we are seeing from Punjab, the Himalayas, you can see, and every city now you can see for the pollution is reduced. While the pollution in the cities only 30% contribute from vehicular emissions, still we can reduce that 30% much lower with an electric vehicle, because electric vehicles are zero tailpipe emission, and it moves the pollution from the city where you live to the generation. And I will not get more into generation. Professor has already talked about it. Generation in India is becoming more renewable, and hence we need not much worry whether we are burning coal and getting that electricity. Even today, with our current 18 to 20% of renewable energy in India, we have done a thorough, and not only as McKinsey and Morgan Stanley has done a study from well to wheel, still we are about 20% lower on like to like on electric vehicles running on road. So if India increases the renewable energy percentage, it's going to further improve the total emissions coming out of the country, but definitely it will move many emissions from the city to a generation location. So that's how important it is. We are talking about growth, India growth rate. If you want to continue to bring a lot of people out of poverty, we need to grow at a very reasonable rate, about 5% to 8%. If that is so for next 10 years, then mobility plays a vital role. Without mobility, there is a direct link on growth, and hence without mobility, we can't get growth. If we have to get mobility, then today we are importing about close to $110 billion of oil. By 2030, it will go to about 250 billion, which is impossible for us to sustain on energy security as well as on economic security of the country. We can't be importing oil to the one. So what we are doing as a country, what we believe as a country is we will have to get, I used to always tell a triple whammy, we'll have to get vehicles which are running more and which are running in the cities to electric, and that will reduce import duty. So what Mahindra we are doing, we are getting cars to get into fleet That means your employee commute, your fleet vehicles, which are running 200 kilometers and above a day, we are trying to convert them into electric. Now, what is the triple whammy? Because these are all the vehicles which are running 200 to 300 kilometers a day. They consume a lot of fuel, they create a lot of pollution, and they are running in the cities. Now, if you convert them into electric, what happens? Now you are directly attacking the high impact running, and hence your oil consumption is less, and hence these vehicles produce less emission. The third one is the electric vehicles. When you run more than 200 kilometers, it becomes economically viable. That means you need not spend more money per kilometer because the operating cost is very low. So if you look at the higher EMI cost of the initial acquisition, still the every month fuel consumption cost, if you tabulate, it will be still lower to own an electric cars in operating cost perspective, in total cost of ownership perspective, and hence it will become economically viable. We have proved that in Bangalore and many cities, Pune, Delhi. Today, many fleet operators are getting into electric mobility. The other big area is two-wheelers and three-wheelers. India is a big, I would say, multi-modal transport country, unlike West, and it has large two-wheelers, huge need for last mile connectivity, because India is growing on a mass mobility like metros, mass rapid transport system, because giving mobility to 1.3 billion people is not the same effect when we are giving mobility to somebody in USA or Europe, because in India, the cars penetration is about 22 cars per thousand population when compared to close to 900 plus in US. So the whole US economy was built around personal mobility and cars. India, if we do that, it is going to be a substantial disaster, because you will not have enough roads, you will not have enough parking space, and you will not have enough, what I would say, infrastructure to address to 1.3 billion people. And hence, India needs multimodal transport. So if we have multimodal transport, then you have last mile connectivity, you need first mile, you need last mile delivery, first mile delivery, mass transport. In all this, the first easiest adoption on electric can be on the last mile and first mile for three-wheelers, two-wheelers. And we have launched a three-wheeler in a lithium-ion one, and it has got a very, very, what I would say, good reception in the market because of simple things. The electric three-wheeler literally makes a driver to earn more than what he earns in a normal three-wheeler. We have many testimonies from our drivers telling they are earning about 3,000 to 4,000 rupees more than the regular autos, just because of cost. Because most of the three-wheelers are bought in more than the down payment in the 2-3 and even EMI, due to the lower electricity cost, the customers are able to save a lot of money. And to our surprise, India is always very innovative, not just in products, but also in the customers. We found suddenly women drivers adapting to electric mobility, because the electric three-wheeler is drive-by-wire, bringing a high-end technology to one, because you don't have clutch, you don't have gear, it is just driving like a scooter. Many women employers who are doing household have moved to buying electric auto by a financing scheme, and they are now saying they are earning close to 10,000 rupees more than their regular work, without doing much hard work, but doing a dignified work. And they are getting a respect in the society. There are cases in Indore, there are cases in Kerala, there are many testimonies in Bangalore to it. So the technology by itself, while it is important to understand it, it is important to applicate and transform the society. And it should increase the life of the people. That's what is our principle, and that's what is the testimony we want to do it. Whether we want to do it in a fleet to prove that the pollution is coming down, it is economically viable, whether it is a three-wheeler, whether it is lifting the life of the people and they are earning more, and hence it is becoming popular. As Professor said, there is still a challenge in personal car mobility. We are not able to break even because the personal cars are run only 10 to 15,000 kilometers a year. And most of the time we park our car and we run for, let's say, 40, 50 kilometers a day on a regular use. but there is a huge range anxiety, and hence people want to pack huge batteries in the vehicle, which creates a problem. Now, the issue is, do we get cars like Tesla to have 80 to 100 kilowatt hour battery pack in a car and then just run for, let's say, 50, 100 kilometers a day? We can do that in Western world because the resources are available. In India, as I said, has a limited resources and huge population. We need to be very, very selective on spending the money either by government or individual or a company and so on and so forth. So we believe that we need to have a very unique electric mobility solution in India driven by 2 3-wheelers. Select cars which are high running electric cars, which needs to be there. And then look at other areas of delivery, last mile delivery, before we get into personal segment cars becoming popular. Because we have limited resources and we have to be very efficiently and innovatively use them. And that's the principle I believe we have to drive in. Now, having said that, 3-wheelers are India's story. If you go to any part of the world, they will tell you the 3-wheeler is India's story. It's very unique. Initially, people used to mock it, but now they have realized. You can see 3-wheelers in France now. You can see inquiries coming from US on 3-wheelers. 3-wheelers is a very unique product of India. And if India has to be placed in a global scale on electric mobility, we strongly believe 3-wheeler is one of the stories. 2-wheelers is very unique to India. Even India can do something on 2-wheelers extensively and place it to the globe. 80% of the 3-wheelers which are exported are from India. So if that is so, then why can't India play a vital role in electric mobility across the globe in particular segment? It can be 3-wheelers, it can be 2-wheelers, and innovations can come very uniquely from us, which can be deployed across the globe. Similarly, if you look at opportunities of global supply chain on electric mobility, why can't we make cost-effective electric motors, power electronics, and software developed in India? We can make it. It's important that the auto industry, the IT industry, and the youngsters, many of them work on cross-innovation. There is no more, and I would say electrical and electronics, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering separate. I think innovations are now going to come where all of them are together. You have to find an innovative product using chemical engineering and writing a software and creating an automobile product. That's what electric vehicles are all about. And hence, I would request youngsters and people who are studying new, think at innovation, not at domain expertise only. Of course, you need domain expertise innovation, but you also need an integrated innovation between domain expertise to create in value to the customer and to the society. With that, I would leave my thoughts to all of you that on a World Environmental Day, I'm very, very privileged to be the platform of Dr. Abdul Kalam, and happy to contribute my time to all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mahesh, thank you very much. Really, it was very enlightening thought process and the idea. I think the most that what you mentioned is that affordability. I think end of the day, India must be able to afford. Indians must be able to afford. And I think when you exactly said that of the testimonials, when people, some of them are able to save more money with electricity. With electric vehicles, it's not only saving the environment, but also help make their lives better. So thank you very much for giving your views, and I truly hope that this area of electric vehicles would be of great interest to most of our entrepreneurs and students and the coming generation. Because this is the future. EV is the future, definitely. Thank you, sir. So with this, we move on to our next speaker, Padma Shri Professor Anil K. Gupta. So Professor Gupta is a visiting faculty at the Center for Management in Agriculture, IIM Ahmedabad, and also at IIT Bombay. So with this very short introduction, I first thank all the panelists for giving more time to our viewers. So Gupta sir, over to you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen and yes. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here with you all because Dr. Kalam was not only a great friend of Honeybee Network, but a great promoter and a patron of the inclusive innovations from grassroots level. No matter where he had occasion to talk about it, he would always refer to the innovations by the common people. So much so that we named the Children Creativity Innovation Award after him, and I will talk about it a little later. The point that I'm trying to make today is slightly different from what the previous two speakers have said, because they talked about very well about the options that are available in the electric vehicles or electricity use. Ashok mentioned very categorically about the choices that we have across the spectrum of renewable and non-renewable energy. And Mahesh also mentioned about the options for three-wheel vehicle. What I will do is to bring some insights from the grassroots level. So let's look at this simple way of harnessing energy in a village of Meghalaya, Cherrapunji. What is this lady trying to do in this house where we walked there during our Shodhyatra in Meghalaya? This is the place where cooking is going on. There's a shelf here to cure the wood which is used for trolleys in that place for transportation. The wood becomes strong when it is heated. If we go further, the temperature has gone down slightly. As the smoke goes up, the temperature is lost. And what we are witnessing here is a beautiful functional use of energy loss as it takes place. In other words, energy loss is not really loss, it is becoming more functional for a particular purpose. That to me is the crux of the matter, which we probably have not paid enough attention to. So here you are drying the wood for fuel purpose. As you know, Cherrapunji receives the maximum rainfall in the world. Fuel wood is moist or dry, wet, needs to be dried. And here meat and cheese can be dried up. And on the top, there is a bag of seeds, which is fumigated with the smoke, which doesn't have much temperature, but has a little bit of carbon dioxide and other gases, which will then disinfect it and prevent insects from eating the seed. Look at this multi-level, multi-shelf basis of energy harvest. So how do we discover this? We discover it through Shodhyatras. I have walked in every single state, from Andamans to Gorej Valley in Kashmir. 45 walks that we have had in different parts, in different agroclimatic conditions. And obviously, we have come across innovations which have renewability, but not only renewability. There could also be non-renewable energy, but used very efficiently. There could also be one of the most important determination of the grassroots innovation, of course, affordability, accessibility, availability, and local repairability. Now let's look at some of the simple reasons, some of the basic reasons. Why do these innovations emerge? They emerge because very obvious to many of you, that there are people who are materially in an energy constrained environment. They don't have access to other things. They also have a desire to do something different, something sustainable, something frugal. And frugal not just for the consumer, but frugal also for the environment. And they want to collaborate. Not all of them, many of them, to get feedback from the users. They have compulsion of survival, of course. When there is nothing else, they have to survive with whatever they can have access to. And of course, there is a circular economy. They repurpose the old parts. They repurpose the available resources and the affordability. Now let us look at some of the key heuristics, just as an example of how can we learn from the innovators if we want to develop energy policy and energy technologies and products and services. So the first one, which is very intriguing but very true, you either preheat the fuel or preheat the air, or both, and the combustion efficiency of the fuel goes up. Now I'm surprised. We have tried with auto industry, and I'm happy that Mahesh Babu is here. I would very much wish to use this simple concept. So what did one Mr. Mandal did in Guwahati? He took the hot air, he took a pipe around the exhaust, that was then put into the carburetor, because he got hot air and mixed it with the fuel. That improved the efficiency of the fuel combustion. A very, very potent idea. We will see many stoves where grassroots innovators have used this. So there are some very beautiful heuristics underlying the innovations for energy, from which we can learn, optimize them, elaborate them, amplify them, depends how the scientists can use it. Second, I gave you example of the kitchen, the hut, kitchen in the heat. How can heat gradient be used for functional purposes to improve energy efficiency? We often, what do we do in a geyser? We raise the temp, we make the water hot at 60 degrees, and then we mix the cold water in our bathroom and use it. Very inefficient use of geyser. What do we need? We need hardly 40 degrees. So either you set it at 40 degrees, which is the best way of using the geyser. Secondly, what we do, we take the water from the bottom. We know that current will make it such that the heat will go, hot water will go up, but we take the water from below. So if there's a floating wall which will divide, which will give you the water from the upper layer of the geyser, you will get hot water at much less cost. You don't have to boil, you don't have to heat, let's say 20 liter, 30 liter, 40 liter of a geyser capacity to get hot water. I mean, there are basic design defects. There are basic design defects in the way we are using energy. The last example of heuristic, there are many more, but I've just picked up a few, is that not all activities that we do in our production systems, in manufacturing, in agriculture particularly, need high speed. They don't need faster time, and they don't need high output. Now, this may look counterintuitive, but in irrigation, you have slow irrigation, small irrigation, and even irregular flow, and it is more efficient. You give more water, more nutrients are lost. Less aeration takes place. More pest attack takes place. More water, more pest attack. More water, more leaching. Faster water, erosion. So now look at this. There are principles of efficient use of energy which are also economical, if only we'll pay attention to them. So let's look at how two innovators from Assam, Mehtar Hussain and Mushtaq Ahmed, discovered this principle. So they had a windmill which they used for pumping water from a hand pump. And they asked two questions. And these are heuristic questions. One, does it matter whether water comes in a spurt or smoothly? Because the hand pump has a single wall. So when you pump the water, it comes in, come and go, I mean, because of the single wall. Second, does it matter whether paddy field is irrigated in 4 hours or 40 hours? Look at the beauty of the question that you ask, because design will follow from the question. Ideally speaking, there's no rush to irrigate the field. Why should I use a high horsepower engine and then finish with the task in 4 hours? I can as well irrigate it in 40 hours. Slowly and slowly. Slow irrigation, as I already mentioned, is more functionally efficient. It leads to less leaching of nutrients. It causes less problem with aeration and can be used by the plant. Plant needs moisture, not water. And yet we flood irrigate. All over the country, we flood irrigate. Because engine is available. I can finish my work in 5 hours, 10 horsepower, 12 horsepower, 15 horsepower engine I will use. Very inefficient way of irrigating crops. Let's look at some other examples of this. So this is a Saifuddin stove from Maharashtra. What did he do? He took the pipe of fuel around the flame. So fuel got heated up. When fuel got heated up, thermal efficiency went up to 52%. The best stove that Indian Institute of Petroleum has so far evaluated is about 60%. This fellow achieved 52%, which is almost like 90% efficiency of the best stove through his grassroots innovation at a cost less than 1,000 rupees. Why can't we change the standards? And I'm sure Ashok will think about this, that if there are some efficient solutions available at low cost, we should change Bureau of Indian Standards for designing stoves, kerosene stove. It is more efficient than the Indian oil stove. Look at the next one. This is from Pilibhit, Niranjan Prasad. Same thing. He also uses 25% less kerosene, again, because it is heating. The fuel pipe is coiling around the flame, and as you ignite, it gets heated up. Jayaprakash, he has used a wood stove, which is much more efficient. This is a rice husk stove, which can be used even on a boat. So when there is a flood in Bihar, you can use this, very efficient, gives a blue flame. So this is the firewood banquet by Tamil Nadu. Similarly, now this is a very interesting idea that Jyoti gave from Udupi. She made a water jacket around the stove. Now the heat which was going waste, she harnessed it. Now if you put rice or dal in hot water, it needs less time to cook. Your energy is saved. Simple. Just for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, put it in the hot water and then cook it. It will take half the time, so fuel is saved. Why don't we advertise this? Why don't we publicize these practices? That's simple ideas, for whatever good reason, they are prudent, they are conscious about this. So let's look at now the next part, mini hydro turbine. Ratnakar is also called turbo Ratnakar. Now, the beauty is that the water velocity in the stream is variable, as Ashok had mentioned earlier, which is a very is a common problem, is a very constant problem in all the renewable energy, that the speed is not constant. Flow rate is also not constant, obviously, and therefore the energy that you generate will not be of uniform quality, but you can, of course, through the different alternators, make it possible to use it so that your device doesn't get affected. He has made from 1 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, even up to 40 kilowatt. So for coffee gardens in this area, it is a Virapans area, people have in the remote areas, they use this device and can make their energy renewable, and it works very well. This is another Nippon Kalita zero head turbine. When you have a river, you don't have a head, you can use this turbine to generate energy by the flow. There are many such hydrants available in Uttarakhand and many other places, but these are done by the people themselves and they are using very low cost technologies. This is a very interesting idea by Imli Toshi in Nagaland. What did he do? He had a bamboo lathe machine. So he used to get a lot of powder of bamboo, mixed with a resin and made a composite. And he made the turbine, the blades of the turbine with the bamboo composite as it is shown in the photograph, which means that the energy required to move these blades was much less than if they were made of metal. Very interesting use of renewable resource for generating power, even with less flow rate and with less cost. This is again the same concept, multi-utility fuel efficient. This is a very interesting thing from Manipur. You are using a stove to dry. Now you need different temperatures for drying different things. So you decide at what distance, which shelf should you put what material to dry. See, in our mind, we always believe in constant supplies, constant supply of power, constant supply of heat, uniform supply of heat, and the whole mindset leads to very costly outputs, very costly designs. But actually speaking, not everything needs to dry at the same temperature. Not everything needs to dry quickly. In fact, slow drying makes it more tasteful, less loss of nutrient. So we must recognize that there are efficiencies in slowness. There are efficiencies in the gradient of temperature rather than the constant temperature. And these gradients, which happen because we can't maintain the uniformity, can be harnessed profitably. So this is the triangle that we are trying to make it happen. Gyan, which was set up in 97, Srishti, which was set up in 93, innovation, investment, and enterprise. We have innovations. We need investments, and we need entrepreneurs. Ashok knows it well because we have been discussing this for 30 years now, that not every innovator can become a good entrepreneur. Innovator can't make two things alike. Entrepreneur has to make batch by batch constant production. It is here, Mahesh, that we need to have a partnership between corporations and communities. Corporations and communities can join hand. If nothing else, the corporate designers and engineers would learn about frugal ways of solving problem. You may throw away the solution, doesn't matter. But the mindset, the heuristic, the way of thinking which generated a frugal solution needs to be learned, because our engineers are trained in highly resource abundant environment. And surely when you live in a resource abundant environment, how will your mind think of saving on materials and other possibilities of saving energy in that regard? So I would say it is useful. It is useful to have this partnership, not only to help innovators, but to help ourselves. We can learn many heuristics. Now, I would like to mention in the end, a few examples of democratization of innovation and creativity. We are a great believer in sharing knowledge. So if you go to gyan.org/patent.php, Ashok, this is one of the recent databases. 2 students, Devika and Zagam, who were in my class at IMA some years ago, made this 0.8 million abundant US patents. 0.8 million abundant US patents are free to use by scholars, entrepreneurs, students, and startups. And they include a lot of energy technologies. Now, since they have been abundant, we can refer to them, we can use them, and draw upon in our designs with, of course, due attribution. Similarly, Techpedia, you know, Techpedia has more than 200,000 engineering projects now, information of 200,000 projects by 500,000 students. These are like half-baked bricks. We want to build a beautiful mansion. Some of these bricks can be put together. Some of these bricks can be baked properly, and we will have new materials, new ideas, new insights that can be used. This is a QR code of our Honeybee databases for farmers, for common properties. Anybody can access it, just scan it, and it is yours. No password required, no user ID required, no reciprocity required. There's no condition in it. Unless you share your knowledge, I will not share. No, there's no condition. You share or not, I'm sharing. Honeybee Network is sharing. And this is the spirit. That's why Dr. Kalam was always so appreciative of what we were doing, because he saw a purpose, a purity of public purpose that we were trying to achieve. So we are now organizing 2 competitions. I want to use this occasion to publicize. One is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Ignited Mind, Children, Creativity and Innovation National Competition. NIF has stopped this competition. They have now started, they continued Manak. So therefore, we decided to take over from this year. In this competition, children can send ideas directly, unlike the Manak, where they have to send their ideas are selected by the principal or the teacher, and they only can nominate 2 ideas from each school. Here we have no condition. You can send as many ideas as you want directly, no bureaucracy, no hurdle, no restriction. ignitedmind@honeybee.org. That's the address. And second is HBN Kriya, Creativity and Inclusive Innovation Award. This is an award where anybody can participate. HBN Kriya, CRIIA@honeybee.org. Anybody can participate, professors, teachers. You know, one of the great problems in our country is that many times in science exhibition, you have seen children come out with models which are made by their teacher or their parents. And they come to the exhibition and say, this is my model. This is not their model. The whole ethical foundation of the society is ruptured when we ask children to claim something as their own when it is not. And I feel very sorry about it, that year after year, I see parents and teachers trying to help their children thinkingly, but they are actually stifling their creativity. So if we really want to promote creativity and innovation, we will have to let children be, and therefore let them share their ideas, but their parents and their teachers can give to NP and Kriya Award. So they don't have to give their ideas in the name of the children. This is Sashti, which is the backstopping institution for Honeybee, both Sashti and Gyan. And this is the belief that we have. So let me close by saying creativity counts, knowledge matters, innovations transform, and incentives inspire, but not just material incentives, also non-material incentives, and not just individual incentives, but also the collective incentives. This is the thought that I wanted to share with you. I hope that it provides a different perspective, but in the same genre, that how do we learn from people and cross-fertilize the ideas in formal and informal sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. You know, it was definitely from a altogether different perspective. You know, starting from everyday use. I mean, it was so heartening to see so many real day-to-day solutions, you know, that's been found out. Especially, you know, the functional efficiency that you mentioned and the paddy field example. Absolutely, you know, the plants need moisture and not water. So we just pump and then assuming that, you know, there's a lot of efficiency, but there isn't. So that was absolutely a great example. And then, you know, the frugal way of solving problems is what you mentioned, which is basically we say in India, Jugaad. So more or less. So, you know, the example, what we saw in this pandemic period was basically, you know, people started making their own face masks, shields, and ventilators. You know, they started to find solutions to kind of daily problems. And at the end, which you really mentioned, you know, inspiring students to be their own innovations and not teachers or students, I mean, our parents support them, and so that, you know, the ethical way of innovation. Absolutely, it was great listening to you, and I'm sure all of our participants would have also enjoyed thoroughly with all this live examples and possibilities that exist within our nation. Thank you so much, sir. So with this, we move forward to the next speaker. So Sri BC Datta, who is the Vice President of Corporate Affairs at Hyundai Motors India Limited. Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure to see you here at this platform. And thanks for your time, despite all the challenges and on the timing and the situations that you have, and really appreciate you being here. And with this very short introduction, I think, I'll let you give the time.
We'll start, Mr. Sasi.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for this Abdul Kalam Foundation's this conference or webinar. And I have had 2-3 times meeting with Mr. Sheikh, and then it was very fruitful and very heartening to know so much of activities are being conducted and done. And definitely, as the people's president, definitely a lot more to be done in his name, and many more activities also to be done. We're very, very happy and good to see. Now, moving forward, I think we will. I think Professor Junjunwala and Professor Gupta and also Mr. Mahesh has already covered. So from my side, I think the future of the, what is so far in these many years, what we were doing is creating more and more mobility solutions, models, and different type, different power. Most of the activities, mobility are all dependent on petrol or diesel, this kind of fuel. Over a period, of course, since the most of the polluted 14 of the cities in the world are in India, a lot of efforts have been made to move from these kind of petrol, diesel to the electric power. Of course, metro rails and electric trains and most of these things are all a result of that. And but however, the whole thing has now seen a change that post this COVID-19, a lot of changes, disruptions are happening in terms of whether one should travel in a mass transport vehicle or one should use a personal vehicle or a smaller vehicle. So possibly that is where, as Mr. Mahesh put it, two-wheeler and three-wheeler or the, given, the most preferred mobility solution as of now. So a lot of opportunities, innovations also are going on in terms of the electric vehicle and a similar, of course, technology, environment-friendly technologies going on. I saw other day Bangalore, 2 boys have done something on aluminum and water, and they were saying it can run, the vehicle can run for about 1,000 kilometers. So these kind of innovation definitely would, would definitely add, a lot of innovations, and then of course add value to our own living. Such being the case, our own, the automobiles per se has always been the forefront. And so what has happened now is from electric and this thing, we have moved a very slow step. We have taken to CNG and LPG kind of thing, which are less pollutant, and possibly later the hybrid vehicles also started coming in. Now of course, the electric vehicles. The electric vehicles, of course, most of the OEMs have started doing manufacturing it here and selling. Of course, as Mr. Junjunwala put it, the batteries is a one major issue. It's also the cost is coming down and drastically. A lot of efforts and innovations are happening. It definitely needs to bring down, so that eventually brings down the price of the vehicle, and it becomes more and more affordable and more used in the country. definitely it is the need of the hour, considering the huge amount that we pay for the import of fuel. Now, from our end, the Hyundai Motor India, we are the largest exporter of cars from India for almost now 20 years. Made in India cars have been exported to over 88 countries, and wherever we have exported, they have won awards, and they have won name for the technology that we have created here and making it in India. So we are also now started making electric vehicles. For the first SUV in India, we have released, which runs about 450 kilometers. Looking at other options of bringing lower priced and of course more affordable, of course, cars. Now, moving forward, of course, all the whether the such mass transport vehicle one should travel or not, because of the COVID has definitely made more and more people to opt for these kind of smaller vehicles. So definitely there's a great future, and for the innovations also, there's so much of innovation, as Mr. Gupta has put it. A lot of innovations are happening, and definitely they are happening in the mobility area also. So that will definitely bring in India to focus, and as the present government has been pushing very hard at Make in India, and also making sure that we are making it here and also exporting it. So it gives a lot of encouragement to bring the technology, innovate, and also export, make it here and also export. And also look forward to more and more companies coming here and setting it up, and also innovations also taking place here. I'll not, take more time, because I think the organizers have informed at a short of time. But then my only this thing is that submission is that the innovations definitely are needed. At the same time, huge infrastructure is also required. There are a lot of challenges in terms of that. So the government of India, we have been submitting it to them that that's the need of the hour, the infrastructure, and that needs to be definitely looked at and then to be built on, so that more players, more OEMs can, or MNCs come in and start working here, producing here, making India a great place. So with this, I think I'll make open this thing for more questions rather than speaking. And thanks to the Mr. Sheikh and the Abdul Kalam Foundation for giving this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Datta. Thanks a lot. I think you gave a completely different perspective. And first and foremost, India is very thankful to Hyundai, and for being one of the largest exporters of cars. And we see that. I mean, I live in Sri Perumbudur, so I see it myself physically, the amount of value addition and economical growth that your organization brings to India, and especially also driving in the area of electric vehicles. So thanks a lot for your views. And what we can do now is that we can take our four of our panelists. They have certain questions, and we can take those to each of you, and we'll be very glad to hear your views on those. So first, can we have Dr. Ramesh?
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, and very happy that it was a very fantastic presentation by all the four speakers. And my first question is the most of the young generations not ready to move towards innovation. can you suggest the positive points for them to jump onto the innovation in green? The question, sir. So because I closely associated with the children's, plus I closely associated with the students, the motivation behind them is very, very lagging. So the people moving to the innovation is very, very less in our country. So I request you to give some positive boosted points so that it will be a great boost for them to jump onto the innovations.
Yeah, Dr. Ramesh, so whom do you want this question to be addressed to?
Yes, sir. Honeybee. Good.
Okay, Professor Anil Gupta. Yeah.
Yes, I would say that this is a good question. And what are the drivers of innovation? Curiosity is, of course, a driver. But if you can make the unmet social need as a driver, unmet social need. So there are 4 things that any innovation group must perform. Share. Share what is already known. Share what is already available to you. Share. Search the oddball, the people who are trying experiments, even if they have failed. Third, celebrate. Invite the innovators to your classroom, to the college, and let the students get exposed to those who have solved problems creatively. And fourth, sense the unmet needs. There are so many unmet needs. I am teaching a course currently, Aao Chale Avishkar Karen, for children, online. And class 4, class 5, class 6, 7 kids, they are doing assignments and they are finding out the unmet needs and then they send their suggestions. Now, I don't see any reason why we cannot help or encourage or empower our students to look at these unmet needs in their family, in their neighborhood, in their communities, in the public facilities, in the primary health center. You know, how do you sterilize your devices, forceps, scissor, in a primary health center without an autoclave and without electricity? How do you do that? We had an innovation where in 200 rupees, 1 liter of a liquid, you put the forceps and scissor and everything else in that for a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, and it gets sterilized. 200 rupees per liter. We need an insulation box. Now we gave a Gandhian Young Technological Innovation Award. How did it come about? By a student. A lot of awards that we have given to the students every year prove both that at all levels. The youngest child we gave an award was class 1 in Virudnagar near Madurai. So children are creative. It's just that we are sometimes stifling their creativity by imposing our own ideas on them, or by not listening to them, or by not provoking to them. I think we need to raise our expectations. And I can say that without any doubt, we are running a course on summer school on inclusive innovation, and we find fascinating ideas which have not been worked upon. A small furnace for a potter in a tribal village so that his breakage rate comes down and pollution doesn't affect his eyes. A small chimney was designed on the furnace which by the students, which solved this problem. So there are so many such COVID waste. What kind of devices a sanitation worker should use so that he doesn't get affected or she doesn't get affected. These are problems of everyday life which we must pose to our students, and I'm sure they will come out with some creative solutions. Challenge them.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, thank you, Professor. So, Gokul, can we have the question from you? Please also mention to whom this to be addressed.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's great that we had an important panelist on energy. So also we thanks to our Dr. Abdul Kalam's Foundation who have initiated. It is to our Professor Junjanwala, sir. Sir, I know you are an eminent professor on the renewable sector, and especially on the both solar as well as on EV. If you try to see the solar, the reach to our Indian population becomes limited. Dots are not connected to see every individual house is not having solar. So the similar case would have happened to EV. So what kind of an affordability and policy level change you are seeing from your perspective to see that every individual should have an EV vehicle? So that's the question, sir, to you.
Okay. Two things. First, solar. See, we have focused a lot on centralized solar. We have not sufficiently focused on decentralized solar. I have done work on decentralized solar with DC. Basically, while centralized solar is extremely cost effective for India, ₹2.50 per kilowatt hour, if you try to put it on a rooftop, if you put small panel like 200 watt, 300 watt, it is not cost effective. If you are willing to put 2 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, it is cost effective. The point is, in India, most homes use very small amount of energy. It is not like in the West. So they don't need 2 to 3 kilowatt. They need 200 to 300 watt. It is that where we have failed. And I think it's a technological failure. See, most solutions that is developed in Germany and Europe or even in China are focused on 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, 20 kilowatt panel, which is the minimum. We need 300, 500 watt. How does you make it cost effective? We have been trying. I think we have a solution now, which so far we have been using primarily on behalf of the government to the people who did not have electricity. I think from this year onwards, we plan to start commercializing it and make it available to individual households. The second question, electric vehicle. I think two-wheelers today and three-wheelers can take off this year. There is really nothing to prevent it. Today, they are starting to become cost effective. They don't require too much of charging infrastructure. You charge at home or anywhere with a 15 ampere plug point. I think that we can accelerate very, very rapidly. The four-wheelers, small four-wheelers is where the challenge is. 20 lakh, 30 lakh car is possible. The point is, most people buy 5 lakhs rupees car or 3 lakh, 6 lakhs rupees car. That's where the challenge is. And I think we should get there. I think Mahesh Babu has been working. Some of us have been working. By early next year, we should get there on that also. Two-wheeler, three-wheeler, we can do. Today, it's possible. I think let the COVID crisis get over, you'll see a flood of the solution. We have learned over time. We have finally learned how to make good batteries, good motors, good controllers, etc. If any one of you want to visit us after the COVID crisis, please do. You'll see all of this. Anil Gupta has not come for a long time. He should visit us.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Datta, I want badly to come. I've met him after a long time.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you,
I think it's also a good platform, to network at this stage. Yeah. So can we have the next question from Mr. Sheikh Salim?
Yes, sir. Professor Asad, sir. Is it possible space or energy conversion from outer space?
Sorry, I think there was an echo. Can energy be?
Space solar energy conversion from outer space.
I don't think that we need any such. I think enough sunlight falls on Earth. In fact, that is the source of all energy. And enough sunlight falls on Earth. India is very rich in that. We just need to learn how to use it. Of course, there are traditional ways of using it. I mean, for example, drying grains, etc. Drying clothes used to be done on sunlight. But I think today we can convert it to electricity without any problem. It can be done on every home. Can we think of having a 300 to 500 watt solar panel on every home, even small home? That is what our goal should be. Can we make it affordable? I think we can. Policies will be required, focused on that. Indian policies are also looking more or less copied from the policies that is there in Germany or in UK. They are also focusing on large homes. And that's part of the reason why we have not taken off.
Absolutely, sir. So, yeah, well said. I mean, India as a nation, we have to really see, one is government policies, and also second is that, as individuals, how do we really get into usage or contribute via renewable energy? The usage, one is generation, and second is usage of renewable energy as citizens. So, absolutely. Can we have the next question from Dr. Balamurugan?
Thank you, sir. So it was a wonderful session, and it has given more insight of the environmental day as well. So like productions are going on, sir. So this question is for Datta sir. So it's actually a lot of battery cars are in production, mostly successfully running on road. But now the conventional car itself having problem of going without fuel means it end up standing at the road. is there any plan to install more charging stations on road? And can you give an insight of charging stations that is being installed in Tamil Nadu, and what are all the opportunities that is available for MSMEs or the other industries that can participate in the charging stations, sir?
Yeah, the charging station, of course, is one thing that is there. We have all the automobile manufacturers have taken it up with the government. And of course, Tamil Nadu government has also had several initiatives on this. They have formed a committee especially to, look at the electric vehicle initiative. I was also part of this committee, and then now they have now the electrical department, the EB has taken this forward. They are also trying to set up the charging stations. Added to that, what is happening is the manufacturers like Mahindra, Mr. Mahesh is there, and Hyundai, and several of us, we are trying to install the charging stations wherever we can. Most of our dealerships will definitely have a charging station, and we are also trying to support the the customer to have one at his own place and are very closer to him. As far as the national highway, which is one initiative the government has been looking at it, possibly because of this COVID-19, it has slowed down, but definitely that initiative has started, and it will go forward in a much faster way because of this environment issue and because of this COVID-19 impact. And the other question that you are asking on the MSME, definitely there are a lot of opportunities are there in terms of the components, parts, and accessories that are required for the electric vehicle. Of course, definitely a huge opportunity exists. Though there are some loss will be there in terms of the existing fuel technology that will over a period, it won't go just tomorrow. It takes maybe over 10 years time it will go, as Professor Junjunwala put it, possibly 2030 or little before that we will have all electric vehicles in the country. My strong belief is that there are definitely a lot of opportunity exists for MSME in the electric vehicle charging, and also in the maintenance and supporting activities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So it was a wonderful.
Thank you, sir. I think together with this electric vehicles, the biggest opportunity, that also comes is the charging stations, definitely. So, this is charging stations in public, charging stations in organizations, where the cars are parked. I think definitely, I think EV provides a great opportunity for MSME. Just to add upon to what Mr. Datta said. Yeah. So, so can we have the next question from Mr. Ramakannan, who is also on the panelist? Yeah.
Hi. Hi, all. First of all, thank you for organizing this very interesting subject. Also, like most wanted to our country, India. Okay, I am Ramakannan. I'm from Singapore. Okay, basically from Rameshwaram. I have a general question, to whoever presented today. Okay, one side is, of course, we need to have that renewable energy. At the same time, do we have any strategies, especially in a household, to save energy in terms of having that meters to to control the household the unwanted energy which is being consumed. At the same time, also talking about the water, do we have any system which we are going to have part of our countries? So that, right, one side we are trying to find renewable energy, at the same time there are waters as well as energy is going to be wasted in the respective houses. Just like to understand, are you going to have any new strategies to the individual houses, okay, to control both energies as well as waters? Is my general questions. I'm not sure how to ask my questions. In future, you'd be able to much more precise. Yeah, anyone, can you please help to answer?
Okay, maybe we can request Professor Anil Gupta, because I think most relevant to the daily frugal innovation.
One very simple way of saving energy in cooking, at least, is put the pulses which take the most time for cooking in hot water, as I said earlier. It is time-tested practice. If we do some pre-cooking heating of the ingredients, the time to cook can be saved drastically. So that's a very practical, very effective way of saving energy. Secondly, in our olden times, it used to be done on one vessel. You used to put second vessel, and then the secondary heat will also cook the second vessel. So the low heat vessel will be put on the more heat vessels. So pulse will be below and the rice will be on the top. The rice doesn't need much heat, can be cooked much more easily. So like that, we must improve the systems that we have in our homes for using heat for energy. We should try that the gas, the cooking stove or the gas that we have should have a water jacket. All the ambient heat that is going waste, flue gases that are going waste, we can easily capture them into hot water. So the design of cooking gas must be changed urgently. And all cooking gas stoves, all cooking, whether it is gas which is piped or it is gas which is supplied in the cylinder, doesn't matter. But the gas stove itself, the two stove gas plate, should have double-walled structure so that it can capture the heat in the water. So there are many small changes that we can do to improve. The amount of water required for cleaning the utensil will be halved, if not more, less than that, if you use hot water for cleaning the oil and other things stuck to the vessels. So there are very, very practical ways in which secondary heat can be used for warming water, and that can be used for cleaning, for cooking, and for a whole range of purposes. So this is a question which I think every one of us, each one of us should ask ourselves as to how would we save water and at the same time energy in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Thanks a lot. The next question, comes from Mr. Syed. Mr. Syed, can you also please, mention to whom this question should be directed?
Hello, all. This is Syed, and my question is to Professor Ashok. There are issues with batteries blasting when we charge for mobiles itself. The more number of vehicles when it is coming on EV, electric vehicles and all, this is going to be one of the biggest issues, right? How are we solving that? Second question to that is recycling and waste management of batteries, including lithium-ion batteries. And nowadays we see in mobile phones, we do get lithium-ion batteries, and over a couple of years, it swells up and takes up almost the double space. And after that, we simply discard it. We don't have an efficient waste management system. So
I understand both the questions. Basically, we in India have technology to recycle the battery, extract everything out with zero waste, no solid, no gas, no liquid waste. This kind of technology has been developed in India. It is little bit manual intensive, but well, it is highly cost effective, and overall the cost of material recovered more than pays for the recovery process. Now, this is, fortunately, we have this. This will mean that we will not have to buy these materials from outside the country, because we don't mine lithium, manganese, cobalt, nickel, which is required, and germanium, not germanium, graphite. Now, how do we ensure that nobody throws batteries, and but it goes to the recycling center? Now, there is a Government of India program for electronics recycling, essentially saying, like my laptop manufacturer, if I'm using, let's say HP, it is of, when they sell the laptop or to say some company, they have to ensure that that laptop goes for recycling after its life is over. I think this kind of policy is already there for electronics. All that we need to do, the same policy for battery. Any battery manufacturer has to ensure that it is collected back. Now, there is a simple way of collecting back. For example, if you say for a mobile phone battery, you will give 100 rupees. I think nobody will just throw it in garbage. They will return it to some place. And you have create some 20 such centers in every city, in smaller towns less. And people will put 100 rupees, get 100 rupees and put back the battery. For vehicle battery, they can even have 300 rupees or 500 rupees. In India, if it is valued, nobody will dispose it in the garbage. From there, it needs to be taken to the recycling center. So I think it is possible to do that. Government of India has to act on it. We have made enough presentation to Planning Commission and everybody. Unfortunately, they're moving slow, but I think we will have to build a little bit of pressure. I'll take Anil Gupta's help and everybody, maybe Abdul Kalam Center's help, to ensure that a policy for recycling takes place. This is required. All that the government has to mandate that it is the producer, seller of the battery, the producer of the battery have to ensure their collection back. That's it.
And it is very interesting, Ashok, that you say this, because Ministry of Environment has adopted, at least in the name, circular economy as a policy. And yet there are no instruments whatsoever for reverse logistics. So reverse logistics is the way in which companies will have to collect back not only the used part, but also packaging material and other things. And this is something we have to work together on that.
And today on Environment Day, because this is going on, I think let us all decide, the panelists, speakers, the audience, that we will actually ensure that recycling must be done with zero effluent. We cannot have effluents. This is where Anil, large number of youngsters in India, young engineers, can actually develop alternate technology. It will take a little bit of effort, but how do you recycle and not waste? I think this very simple concept, which was demonstrated in your stove and other things, you're not even wasting heat. In fact, if you see, there was that you are even utilizing the heat, what otherwise will be called waste heat. So the concept is very rooted in Indian civilization.
Absolutely,
we will not waste. All that we need to do is take it and make government to act on it. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So, Sheikh Ji, I think you have a question to Mr. Mahesh Babu.
Mahesh Ji, I have a question. So, in your current scenario, you talked about helping the three-wheelers, auto, converting into electric vehicles. How this, currently the auto are running, how these guys can, approach any of the electric suppliers or you to convert their existing vehicles?
See, there are 2 points. One is converting existing auto will become slightly difficult, because electric, when we say it also has to meet safety requirements and requirements. So we can do a buyback, or we can do a replacement with an electric auto. So what I would say, that if somebody want to buy an auto, I would suggest that actively consider electric auto, because the down payment is the same. EMI will be looking higher. Don't get scared, because your money outflow per month is going to be, or per day is going to be still lower than the EMI, because you're not going to spend a lot of money on the fuel. And hence, we have done enough calculation, and you can go and talk to existing customers. They have realized more than 3,000 to 4,000 rupees per month of extra money in their hands, with the same rate of taking from customers, not any additional cost, because it is electric, because of the lower operational cost. It also helps us fatigue. A lot of drivers have said their fatigue has come down, and hence their driving time has increased. To be frank, some of the people have said they are now not drinking in the evening because they don't see fatigue after driving an electric auto. There are so many societal benefits, we don't even see them. These are benefits you will have. Now, is it easy to convert all the electric autos? It's not easy because autos are permit based, and the government have a lot of say in it. And we took a longer time to convince many governments to convert to electric. Let's look at Kerala. Kerala, almost 3 cities, they said only electric autos will be registered. We are still struggling in Tamil Nadu to get a permit to introduce our electric autos. Similarly, there are a lot of challenges because auto is seen as an economic power of the government. And government wants to influence it, permit it, and control it, and so on and so forth. I think we have to go out of control regime to a open market regime where economics takes a role and people are free and open to buy new technologies like electric autos if it has to be propagated. So I would say that it's not easy to convert every auto, but there is a lot of efforts needed. Some of the states are very proactive. We are seeing Bangalore, Kerala, Raipur, Indore. Many cities have adopted electric vehicle very much. You will be surprised. Last month in COVID situation, we have dispatched the maximum autos to Agartala, which is Northeast, and Northeast are so much, I would say, conscious of environment and new technologies. You will be surprised that those states and citizens are very, very sensitive to electric mobility. So we will continue to do the effort to convert or replace, I would say, electric autos from the existing customers. And most of them are by reference. So any buys an electric vehicle, I would say, will never go back to the fossil fuel because you will really understand the importance and ease of usage of it and the economics of it.
I have added question. So about this rechargeable stuff, okay? Suppose somebody is using in the autos or batteries, the rechargeable stations. What is the opportunity we can think about it in India currently?
I think it's a very good question because auto drivers, while they charge at home in the evening, they really typically need a trickle charging in between. So maybe typically they stop for a lunch for an hour or so, and this is a very good opportunity. Fortunately, in India, you have auto stands, so it's very easy. We have seen, for example, in Kerala, the Kerala government has a scheme called Kudumbashree, where the women self-help group invest something. So they are giving now what I would say loans to women self-help groups to install small charging stations at auto stands. And typically their husbands or their relative or the one who are driving the auto. So it's creating an empowerment around the society, a small charging of 10 rupees, 50 rupees per auto, accumulated to 10 autos just for an electricity and profit around it is a very good, I would say, economic factor at the usage. And I think it's a good idea. I would suggest if autos comes to the auto stands to a large number, charging station as a business, which are connected, will really play a role. Because if most of them have a smartphone today, if we can schedule them, charge them, book them, pay through an electronic way, it will make this new business sense. I would say it's a very good MSME sector to come up with.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I think this is one of the exactly as you mentioned. It happens most likely in China today. The drivers, they park their vehicles there while it is charged. They have a chat. They pay everything online. It's kind of completely hassle-free. I truly hope we can have something like that also in India quite soon. Yeah. So the next question is from Professor Rajkumar from SRM. Hello, Professor. Yeah.
Yes, just a minute. Okay. Sir, my question is actually, we have a lot of problem due to e-wastage. We last 30 years, we are consuming a lot of electronic items. And is there really, whether we have a protocols to collect the e-wastage from the government sector, especially from the government sector, and make some profitable thing for the government? That's my question.
So, can we have Professor Ashok?
Muted and I was speaking. The law says that the seller of all electronic items has to ensure that it goes to for recycling. Now, the law is not implemented well. I think it's an issue of implementation, and I think there has to be a little bit of an environment movement saying, please implement the law. It is there. I think the law is very good. It has been done quite some time back, around 2012 and all that, then further refined. So the law is very good. It is an obligation. We have to just demand that. And the government sector is the one which is not doing this. But there are recyclers today which will take all your electronics. And I think we need to expand that, even everything else to, but frankly speaking, the law exists. And I think implementation of law, I think unless there is some kind of a people's movement that it has to be done, the government will not act. Sorry to say that. Anil, if you have a different view,
I would say that we need to have a waste exchange. I mean, this is just for the sake of argument. I'm saying that one can develop a market-based solution where we create a waste exchange where people can put up, I've got 4 batteries of this specification, I've got this part, I've got that part, I've got a sound music player, whatever people have, I have a charger, and then they put that unit there. Aggregators will collect it and generate value out of it. And some people might be needing to salvage the components. As you all, I mean, Ashok, you know very well that when when an electrical device goes out of order, 90% components are functional actually. Maybe only 1 or 2 components are out of order. So they are reusable. And I think this industry knows, I mean, they get precious metal out of the electronic waste and so on. There's a very good industry working in the country in this regard, but we have not yet built up a waste exchange. We have not built for electronic waste. We have not built for other waste, but this could be one area where we can start some interventions. So then even if government is not very active, at least the market of buyer and seller will possibly clear some way.
Anil, only thing that I would like to say, even the person who buys, very often what they do is that they take away some parts which are useful, other things throw away. So the buyers, there must be an obligation on buyers that there should be a zero effluent. So I think at the law, that is where I think some tightening is required.
I agree.
Thank you, sir. Exactly. Now in countries
the
like
waste
Europe,
thing is a very good idea for some youngster to start a company.
Yes, I think
just
I'll be very happy to support.
and sell.
I'll be, of course, happy to support this waste exchange. I think we both can together guide some students to create a waste exchange.
That's true, sir. There is a lot of wealth in waste, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is from Gokul, scientist ISRO. So this is the question is to Professor Anil Gupta.
Yes, to Gupta, sir. It's a hearty welcome to see you again in this forum, sir. It's my question is, the Indian population have a large number of youth, nearly 60 to 70%, and you have identified so many grassroots innovators. So you have traveled inside our interior part of village and seen lots of grassroots innovators. Which grassroots innovator has impressed and touched your heart, which you would have not imagined is invented? Can you share it 1 or 2?
It's a very difficult question, but nevertheless, I will mention a few examples. One example of an innovation coming from a child at that time, she's now in college, which has gone to the market and is a universal product. That means this child thought of a solution which is first time in the world. And what was the solution? We have walker to walk when we have problem of balancing. My wife used to have that problem. Sadhana used to have that problem. So she needed a walker, but it never occurred to me that walkers can't be used on a step. So Shalini sent an idea from Patna that when you use a walker, When you climb, the front leg should become shorter. When you come down, the front leg should become taller. So adjustable height of front leg. She didn't make anything. She just wrote on a piece of paper 2 lines. Our team got it made, and it was licensed to a company. It is being sold. Neither Europe nor USA has any walker with adjustable leg. Nowhere in the world. So this is one area where I find it very inspiring that a young kid can identify an unmet need which is unmet universally, not just in India, and be able to suggest a solution which then engineers and others are fabricating and taking to the market. Credit goes to all of them, Rakesh, Mahesh, and everybody. The second example, which is a very simple one, when you pull water from the well in many parts of the country, you still have open wells. And there's a pulley. Now, what happens when you pull the water? Sometimes your rope slips from your hand and the bucket falls into the well. There have been cases when the lady pulling the water also falls into the well. There have been accidents like that. For 5,000 years, we didn't have a solution for this. So we designed, in my village in UP, there was a bunch of hooks tied to a rope by which the fallen bucket was taken out of the well, but we did not devise a method by which the bucket would not fall into the well. So Amrit Bhai Agrawat, one of our grassroots innovators for the last 30 years, he designed a simple pressure hook on the pulley. The moment rope slide down, it will press it against and hold the bucket where it is. So when you are tired, gasping for the breath, hold the rope, leave the rope, it will stay where it is, and then pull it back and take the water. This to me was simplicity at its best, something that did not happen for 5,000 years, and this innovator could do that. There are a large number of such examples I can tell you, including the one by Kulsum Rizvi in Lucknow and Santosh Anand from Hardoi, that when you are sitting before the computer and Ashok, this problem, I am having a pain in the back, so I know how difficult this problem is. Our posture is not correct. So they said the camera would sense your posture. If your posture is not correct, the screen go blank, a message will come, sit properly, I will not let you do work. Or the chair will have pressure sensors, and if I'm not pressing all the sensors, the chair will start sinking and not let you do work. So there are many examples of all kinds. I'm never tired of telling these examples, but I must say that we are not harnessing this creativity enough in our country. That is the problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Yeah. So we have next question from Mr. Babu Francis. This is the question is to again Professor Anil Gupta.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Such a wonderful personalities we can see in this webinar. We are joining from Kuwait. Last year onwards, we are already trying to support the activities and other programs, APJ Abdul Kalam Foundation also. You have great experience all over India and abroad also going, and also a lot of startups, initiatives are developing by NGOs and other students, and also school, colleges are different. So actually the state and central governments are giving the support for NGOs to promote especially this type of innovative technology and this type of such activity. Just I'm expecting your experience reply for this.
You are asking as to what support system is there, or what is that the question?
No, but actually the supports are given by the governments for this type of activity. Especially you are also have a lot of other NGOs are doing this type of activities to promote. So just your experience.
Well, I would say that to be honest with you, don't mind my saying this. I'm otherwise very optimist person. I always look at the positive side, but Ashok knows it. We have been talking about these matters for the last 30 years, more than 30 years, that the support is still very lukewarm, to be honest with you. I mean, if you look at number of innovators who have received even 5 lakh each for developing a product or a business, very few hundred, rather than out of tens of thousands, only few hundred, not even 1,000. So the support is very meager. That is first issue. Particularly when people come from rural areas, they are illiterate or they don't even know how to fill up the form. They cannot go around you and pursue with you whether what happened to my file or what happened to my proposal. I mean, these are the people for whom, that is why we set up GYAN in '97 to provide support at the doorstep of the innovator. That was the idea. Innovators solve the problem. Now you go to that person and provide solution at the doorstep. This is where we need more such institutions, more such support. Telangana State Innovation Council has recently got in touch with us, and we are setting up a GYAN Telangana. A MOU is going to be signed very shortly. We're also trying to do that in some other state, Chhattisgarh, we are trying. So there's a need for such efforts. And I think private sector, high net worth individuals, everybody can contribute. You can take up 2 or 3 innovations and support them from Kuwait. I mean, your friends can make a small network, small base of micro adventure capital, I would say. Dr. Mashruq often says adventure capital, not just venture capital, adventure capital. So we could create adventure capital groups from the people who have some, let's say you have 50,000 rupees to spare, 10 friends have 50,000 each to spare. You can support 10 small ideas and they can go forward. But let us make the supporting innovation as a sport. Just as you enjoy sport, enjoy supporting the grassroots innovations. And that culture should come about. At the end of the day, you will have satisfaction that you helped one idea go forward. Each one of us can help such ideas to go forward. So my experience, to be honest with you, is that we have very limited support for such people. Scientists are very helpful. No scientists charge for their time. That is wonderful. But when it comes to financial support, we are very meager support.
Thank you,
thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think it was great to hear the new word, not just venture capital, but adventure capital. So
Dr. Mashalka used this phrase and I like it very much.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Thank you, sir. So the next question is from Dr. Balamurgan, and this question is to Mr. Mahesh Babu.
Sir, actually, there are a lot of advancement going on with the electric vehicles. Still, there is a problem with grid not supplying power to the rural India. Is there any plan to include rural India to get benefited with electrical industries or automobile industries? And also how my rural youths are going to be benefited out of it, sir?
So I think I will leave it to after my mention to Ashok ji, he will be able to, professor will be able to tell better. But Dr. While we are talking about generation, India doesn't lack anything on power generation. We have enough capacity of power generation in the country, and it was only till last year, last challenges in distribution. So basically, I think even today, our distribution has substantially increased and the power reach has reached to substantially to rural. Now think of a situation where electric vehicles are there. Electric vehicles are also having energy in the battery, right? Not necessarily you have to use them only for vehicle. There are many technologies, vehicle to grid and grid to vehicle, where you can use them to power your home. In fact, you can keep them connected in the grid of your home. If there is a power disruption, you can use them as a backup. And when the power comes back, you can charge them. So there are many technologies available, which I think B2G and G2B things are available. And they need to walk around it and see how we can utilize the energy. Because the battery, if you have to charge in 3 hours, for example, a 3-wheeler, the whole night is about 10 to 12 hours. So you can remaining time whenever there is a power disruption, even in rural areas, it can be a very good storage. In fact, you aggregate all the electric vehicles. Today, our capacity of generation is based on peak power requirement. The average power requirement is not so high. So, in fact, if you aggregate all the electric vehicles in the country, let's say if you have a substantial distribution and ask them to power in the grid, and based on the grid connectivity, you can actually reduce the capacity of power generation if you have storage. So it can play a very vital role in energy storage, not only in mobility, if you use B2G and G2B technologies, and which are available in the place.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Mr. Mahesh Babu, still associated with this question, I do have a question related to this again. So, battery in all our discussion seems to, the battery is the key of everything, whether it's a storage or, for the renewable energy or in electric vehicles. So from the industry, so one is, where do you really see the best locations to have this manufacturing done in India? I mean, of course, because this is bulky, you need water, there's a lot of effluents. probably the process of manufacturing. So what is your most recommended spots?
Today we don't have any specific because battery manufacturing substantial investment. So if you want a gigawatt, millions of dollars, if you want to cover, you need $10 to invest to do a battery manufacturing. Now, if somebody is going to such a huge money, you have to benchmark what's happening in other parts of the world. If you go to US and invest, they are talking about a subsidy of close to 40%. There is a power waiver, there is a land subsidy, and so on and so forth. So we'll have to look at which state gives such a environment with land, with power, with labor laws, where the industry will be able to come and invest and take the benefit out of it. So now look at an investor. We have to look at an investor. If he has a money of $1 billion, he has to invest and create X number of investment. Now, if you evaluate China, if you evaluate India, if you evaluate, let's say, Tamil Nadu versus Maharashtra, businessmen need to look at the best business case. The risk is high because the capital, you never know, it will come back based on market fluctuations. So you will think at which is the low risk area. So it is important for each state to look at how to reduce the risk of investments and promote investment in a particular area. That will be the key factor than any other factors to invest on battery.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So in the interest of time, we'll take 2 more questions. So can we have the question from Dr. Ramesh? And the question is addressed to Professor Ashok.
Yes, sir. Sir, I initially asked the question, a lot of kids are not interested. My second question is, in the undergraduate level, there is a lot of students are interested and they started the innovation. And some students are converted to the entrepreneur. But what happened here is the successful entrepreneurs, there is a very, very less. And a lot of products are coming out, that innovative products are coming out, but it is not moving to the next level. And that students got somewhat demotivated, and finally they will going back for the job. Initially, they thought of going for a startup, and after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, again, this kind of situation is happening very in large. I request our Ashok sir to give you some important tips. So some 4 tips so that the budding innovators will take the tips and go ahead with their future plans.
So let me answer this question. Many of these incubators have come in educational institute all over the country, and they are doing a good first job of exciting the youngsters and getting them to start developing something. But most of us, professors, most people do not know how to do commercialization. And entrepreneurship is not about product development, but taking the product to commercialization, to the market, and succeeding. That is a weakness of our university system, and it shows up in our incubators and therefore with our young entrepreneur. Now, how do we go about solving this problem? Not easy, but I'll say to begin with, I think for everyone who has got somewhere or is very enthusiastic, connect them to us at IIT Madras Incubation Cell, connect them to me. If I can help them go to the next stage, we'll try to do this. We faculty need to understand a little bit of, those of us who are get involved in incubation, a little bit of commercial aspect. And I think this is, some of our business people, business faculty also do not know how to do commercialization.
Yes,
they are more, they can understand banking and other things. But how do you take a product? If I develop a product, if I develop a new mobile phone, what will it make it successful, or will it become successful? Or what should I take care in development? At the time of development itself, I have to think about commercialization. So I strongly suggest that some of you should visit us once the COVID-19 crisis is not there. You will see how we are able to do this, and we will welcome to tie up with any other institute, get their youngsters who go to the first stage and try to take it to the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So the last question, we have the last question before we close the session. So this question is from Mr. Sheikh Salim. Salim ji?
No, Sasi ji, this, instead of Salim, Rajesh from Bangalore, he will ask.
Okay, sure, please. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Rajesh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Rajesh, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So now, so EV is going to be a very positive opportunity for college students. So as of now, there is no clear academics curriculum enter into a EV job opportunity. So from academic side as well as industry side, so if both can join hands, if they come up with a new proposal of creating a curriculum, so it will be a big opportunity, sir. So the industry needs some other industry need exact expectation. So, but at the same time, that is exactly missing from the college students in terms of technical, in terms of commercial. So how to bridge that gap, sir?
I don't know who you are asking this question. Since I work in EV and I am a professor, maybe you're asking me.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashok.
No, so the point is, I think this EV requires a very multidisciplinary skills. First of all, it requires a good understanding of auto basics, auto basics, which is available in some places in mechanical engineering. It requires a very good understanding of electrical engineering, particularly power electronics. Number three, it requires some decent understanding of chemistry and chemical engineering because it involves a battery. Now, for example, I have been teaching a course on electric vehicles. I think now I've taught it about 3-4 years. Now I am able to put that together. Unfortunately, it is not about curriculum. Our faculty is not equipped to teach this multidisciplinary. They themselves are very discipline focused. But we can initially take an initiative and try to teach something at IIT Madras, maybe 20, 30, 40 hours, and that can be recorded, and then that can become probably 3-4 courses, and different people can teach. There are people who can, for example, people who teach electric motors, they can be very quickly trained to teach electric motors for electric vehicles, motors and controllers. Battery, there is two parts of battery cell, which is a chemistry and chemical engineering, and after that battery pack, which is again electrical engineering, and embedded system. People who teach embedded system can learn things. What about the basic equations of when the vehicle moves, how much energy do they take, what's the acceleration, what is the power that they require, and all that is mechanical engineering, automotive sector does it, but they do it in a style, more conventional style, which is more suitable for IC engine. But I think with a little bit of help, they can change themselves to electric vehicles. So it will require some effort. My worry is that there are different people who have announced courses and they're getting some books from here and there and are teaching it. The problem is these books again are written by the Western professors whose understanding, for example, for them, a 20 lakh car is a very normal car. So their understanding is of certain kind. And if they teach that, it doesn't help. I think it is possible to design. I'm willing to take some lead in doing that. Number of people have been asking that. And I've been teaching that. So I have notes, I have some video lectures, but I think we should design something. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor. So as a final, closing words, I really see that, as you mentioned, Professor Ashok. So Electric vehicles and especially renewable energy, so is an area where you will have to have a joint collaboration with multidisciplinary approach. I mean, it's going to definitely benefit electrical engineers, electronics engineers, chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, IT software engineers. So I think this poses a lot of opportunity for cross collaboration and then multidisciplinary approach. So therefore, I think this renewable energy as one, and then the second is this electric vehicles as the biggest opportunity that we have today. And again, we heard kind of in a complete different views from all four of you, from the academia as well as the industry. We are more than thankful from Dr. Kalam's Foundation for all your time and for being with us today and providing all your insights to the industry and also to students. So there have been several people live today on YouTube. And on behalf of all of them as well, I would like to thank each and every one of you and look forward to see you again. And especially Professor Ashok, we really look forward to see you and meet you at the IIT after the COVID is kind of the lockdown is opened up. Thank you very much, sir. Each and every one. Thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ashok.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Thank you all.
Thanks.